group discussion as well as key informant interviews. So all of we know that the MDG Bangladesh really did very well, and that is why in many reports we could see that Bangladesh is considered as a role model. So let's see the picture. According to Household Income and Expenditure Survey 2016, we can see the downtrends of poverty rates from 2000 to 2016. So it's almost we reduce half of the poverty rate, and if we consider extreme poverty rate, actually two-thirds poverty we reduced. So this is really very good picture. But at the same time, our target is more than that. We would like to eradicate poverty. If we really would like to do, then we need to give more focus. So if there is a question somebody asked, or we could raise, that whether the poverty reduced at the same rate everywhere, I think the answer would be different. If we see the right-hand picture, many shades here. So then we could also, from the same study, the report 2016. So the question is, why it has happened? Kurigram, if we know, if we take this picture, that in 2010, poverty rate it was 64%, and in 2016 it's 71%. If we also go back in 2000 or 2005, we could also see the similar picture. On the contrary, if we could consider the amount of resources the government as well as lots of NGOs, they receive, I don't know the number, but the resources to develop the places, then what happened? If we really go through it, then definitely we could ask that how we report poverty. So what does it mean, poverty? Is it only a monetary measurement? There is a question. Let's see another example. We can see Mr. Rahmat Ali, it's the Buraburi village of Ulipur. He has sufficient food to eat in his household. All male adults are employed, 3 children, 7 to 18 years old. No children enrolled in his school, 3 of them engaged in paid labor. His wife died during the last birth, didn't have access to doctor, nurse, or trained birth attendant. His household collect drinking water from unsafe sources. His per capita income is BDT 1910. The same Upojela, another person, Romijuddin. If we also see that sufficient food his family has, his households, all male children are employed, 3 children enrolled and attend in school, wife had access to health service during pregnancy, collect drinking water from safe sources, his per capita income in 1880. If we consider only money metric measurement according to the 7th 5-year plan, the poverty line, we use cost of basic need, and for that Rangpur district, then for rural areas is 1910. Then this household, it will be non-poor, and this household, it will be poor. So how it happened? I think of course, there are many arguments for using monetary poverty measurement, but at the same time, many scholars also said, like Amartya Sen, that some measurement is insufficient to measure the poverty well. So then, what we could do? What would be the complement? So many scholars or institutions of the policymaker, they use dashboard approach. What is dashboard approach? It's an approach where we could see a list of indicators that express the percentage of household access to health service, education service, and so on. Now, it has also limitation. So if we see the 2 tables, 4 indicators and 4 households. For column A, or village A, we can see the household deprivation. Deprivation means that household deprived of education, the column number 1, row number 1. So out of 4 households, 1 household, they deprived in everything. Education, health, drinking water, electricity. Our household, the other 3 households are not. The village B, every households, they are deprived in one indicator. Dashboard approach only consider the summary. So what is the summary? Summary is, in this village, 25%, all the 25%. But we cannot see the inside picture. If we actually see the Venn diagram of it, this is the way we see the dashboard approach, that there is no interlinkage. We cannot ask question that whether the same household, they are deprived of all the indicators or not. So whenever we could see other picture, we could also observe the joint distribution of indicators. So village A, village B, they or village Buraburi or Basra, that's the case study we found, that the joint distribution in village A, there are many poor who are deprived in all the indicators. On the contrary, the Basra village, they are not the same case. If we consider it, maybe the program design, the project design, the policymaker who designed anti-poverty policy, maybe the intervention would be different. So then we could ask that what is the better way? As many scholars, including Martin Ravelian, who actually introduced the poverty $1.9 nowadays, that poverty actually multidimensional. So considering this factor, UNDP has developed the multidimensional poverty. That means they funded. We of course know that we call it Alcaire-Foster methodology nowadays. And many countries like Bhutan, Brazil, Colombia, China, Mexico, they developed their own tailor-made MPI as a part of their poverty reduction strategy. So now the question is that who is multidimensionally poor? So multidimensionally poor, if we see the matrix with 5 indicators, we can see that here 1 is, it is reported as deprivation, and 0 means non-deprived. Deprived means they don't have food security. That household is not food secured. They don't have employment. So any household deprived in 2 or more indicators, that's the poverty measurement or poverty threshold, and it will called poverty cutoff. So here it's a little bit detailed picture. If we just compare this matrix and the earlier matrix, we could see that household 1 and 2, they are not deprived in any indicator, right? So according to our poverty cutoff, they are non-poor. But if we consider the household number 3 to household number 6, we could see that last 2 columns, they have 1, 1. That means they are deprived. So our poverty cutoff is any household deprived in 2 or more indicators. So that is why the first one we are not considering as non-poor. The second one we are also not considering as non-poor. But from the 3rd to 6th, they have deprivation 2 or more. So the next picture came that household 3, 4, 5, 6, they are poor, and they are, we can see the deprivation depth of poverty, that means 2 by 5, which means that out of 5 indicators, they are deprived in 2 indicators. And the last one, out of 5 indicators, they are deprived in all the 5 indicators. So the headcount ratio, we calculate that out of 6 households, 4 households are poor. So the ratio will be 4 by 6. We could calculate it 0.67 or 67%. And the average depth or intensity of poverty, we just adding all the ratios and give 0.70 or 70% intensity. So now this is the way we calculate our MPI, which is called multidimensional poverty index. That is our poverty rate multiplied by poverty intensity. So that I am explaining because is there any changes in any indicator that will directly reflect to MPI. So that is why the scholar who support MPI give this logic that it is very sensitive to any changes. This is called actually transfer. For example, if our poverty line is 1910, if somebody income is 500 and somebody's income is 1880, they are poor. So we cannot see what's going on. And another tendency also, the manager sometimes we found that whenever it is money-metric poverty management, that most of the resources they would like to apply who are just beneath of the poverty line, so that if they could invest to them, they could be easily above the poverty line and they could report it that yes, they done really good job. So that is another argument that why we need to support multidimensional poverty measurement. So this is the way we calculate. So for this study, I actually considered Bangladesh context. Actually, not only Bangladesh context, and also the best practices, UNDP and other agencies like Oxford International Development and available data. So these are the dimension and indicators I considered, the 3 dimension: education, health, and living standards, and their weight, that 1/6 for education and health, because they have 2 indicators, and for living standard indicators, the weight is 1/18. So again, MPI poverty cutoff. If we recall the example, that a household is considered to be poor if it is deprived at least any possible combination of indicators that result in a cumulative deprivation equal to or greater than 40% out of 100% weight. So considering this calculation, we found 66% people are multidimensionally poor in that program areas, and the depth of or intensity is 63%. And MPI, it's calculated as 0.42. So the MPI results also give us, because it is also possible to have the picture indicator-wise, we could see what happened in those 3 upajelas, especially in the program areas, that most of the people are deprived in cooking fuel, as well as assets, year of schooling, and also maternal and child health, electricity, sanitation, floor. This would also give us some sort of insight if we have less resource and we need to rely on data, then we could also use it while designing any anti-poverty projects. So if we see the multidimensional poverty level at Upajala level, we could see Chilmari 66% poverty level, and average intensity is 65%. Ulipur 71%, Kurigram Shaudar 61%. So this MPI calculation is possible to measure at regional level, country level, as well as sub-district level, if with the data we can get support from data. So the question is that why we should develop multidimensional poverty index. The point is that according to the scholars, academician, poverty is not unidimensional, right? And even if we see the history of poverty, in many places, we don't see poverty as disgraceful or, a lack of something. Sometimes we can also recall from our great poet, Kavi Nazrul Islam, the He daridro tumi more korechu mohan, tumi more daniyachu Christer Shamman. Anyway, and even the Steve Jobs, he is a lecturer in a university. He was telling that stay poor, stay hungry, right? And many societies, they didn't consider that poverty such like that it's income, or the only income. According to Majid Rehnama, another scholar, so he reported that this is 1948 when they first published, World Bank published a report, a country will call as a poor or undeveloped, its national economy is less than $100. So that is the way its monetary metric measurement comes, and we are still going on it. But now this is the time we could also check it. And good news is that our policymakers, they have taken it. If we consider our sustainable development goal number 1.2, they also mentioned it. So next year we are also getting multidimensional poverty measurement for whole Bangladesh. Now my argument is that why not we could also use at program management level. So what next? We could use here we mostly use academician perspective, but we could also use multidimensional poverty index using a participatory approach, and we could also develop similar approach like women empowerment index, and we could actually compare the result over time. Thank you very much for listening me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Abdullah Mamoon, for your nice delivery. I think now floor is open. You can ask any question. Before that, may I request the participants to raise your hand so that I can pick up one by one.
Thank you, Mr. Mamoon, for your nice presentation and very pertinent as a poverty-prone country like Bangladesh.
Your name and institutional affiliation
My
first.
name is Dr. Mashukujaman. I am from Northern University, Bangladesh. So my research interest also matches with you. I worked with multidimensional energy poverty index in my PhD thesis. So I have some observation, I need to have some answer actually from you. That is, first question is, you have used 40% weight in case of deprivation cutoff threshold. So why did you use 40%? Why not it is 33? Because in that is OPHI, they actually use 33%. So if you use 33%, in that case, the poverty rate would be more. So why did you change that? And another thing is, that is, you didn't classify the poverty. So it could be classified into extreme poverty or like moderate poverty like this. So there is a scope to extend that. And the third question is, that is, you use actually asset as your indicator. So which sort of asset you actually indicated? Is it a gold or is it a motorcycle or car like this? So this three is the question. So thank you for your presentation. I need the answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question. Very good insight it is. Here, really, it's a question that what is the poverty line or poverty cutoff? And you are right that for the first report that OFI did, that they use 33%. And at the same time, they also use actually 40%. If you please look at the multidimensional poverty index for Afghanistan, they use it 40%. So there is still, yes. This is still a question that where we would look at it. I also had discussion with the other academician, and from the basis of that suggestion, I got that yes, 40%
Because
is
I have
okay.
the report in 2007 from the OPHI regarding Bangladesh especially. They use actually 33%.
Yeah, they use it because it's worldwide they use because of
Especially for
comparability.
Bangladesh, this is
Yeah.
here. That is for OPHI country briefing 2017 for Bangladesh.
Yeah, they did it. At the same time, they also produced the report for other countries. The same, the review. They did it for more than 109 countries with the support of UNDP. So I have the report. But last year, they also published in 2018, that is Afghanistan multidimensional report. So I had a talk with them as well as Sabina Alkar, she was my actually supervisor whenever I worked with them. Then they said that you could do it because it's 2/5, the somehow calculation they did. But that is why I also recommend that what next, that we could develop some sort of a poverty index considering it is called participatory way. So it's academician domain that how they are fixing, but it's highly recommended that next time whenever we do, we could do some sort of participatory approach to develop, because again we are considering that maybe we know better, but to whom we are developing the poverty, they should have also some sort of words. that why you are defining poverty, because you are not in poor, I'm in the poor. So why not you are taking suggestion from me? So that is next time. And the third one, your question that what sort of asset. So according to the again the best practices, I'm sorry, maybe next time we could do it using participatory approach. So the best practice, we could see that asset deprivation, the household does not have at least one of the assets called radio, tape record, TV, DVD, VCD, CD, VCR, telephone, bike, sewing machine, or electric fan. And again, I could share that these are actually discussed with the academician as well as the available literature. And there is a scope that we could do, participatory poverty. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Can we go for next question? Any question, please?
Thank you very
Next,
much
Dr.
for your...
Rokeya, next. Please. Next, you next. Please.
Thank you very much for your nice presentation and presenting the multidimensional poverty. I would like to, share some points in this regard. Number one,
Yes.
the area that you selected for your research, especially the poorest area of our country. Even if we measure this, meaning apply this multidimensional poverty index to Dhaka city, could be the result, could be, what is currently existing in Dhaka city, it could be much more, meaning the figure.
Right.
Meaning currently nowadays we're talking about that our poverty is 25, below 20, but if we use this multidimensional index in Dhaka city, even in the urban areas, I don't know, I'm afraid, because after measuring those things. Second point is regarding the dashboard approach. If you see the dashboard approach, it is started with education, health, drinking water, electricity. Especially the food, meaning the kilocalories, a person is responsible for this. But for those services, it directly come from the government, meaning the person cannot do so. So if I have the money and I am living in a tiny city near a corner of the country, I cannot avail those services, though I have money. So this approach said, no, then you are poor. Because you have not those services, but you have money, but you are not able to get those services, so you are poor. Rather, the guys who have less amount of money, but availing those services, living in the urban areas, he is not poor. So that is also another dimension that need to be, addressed. So this too is my, my point that you may address, or later on you can.
It's your comments, not any question, please.
Okay, just thank you very much for raising this issue, because as you give the example about Dhaka city, that really important that how we are measuring poverty. If we see multidimensional poverty, the situation would be different. We are again and again actually discussing in many forum, because whenever we develop any policy for reducing poverty or to eradicate, we cannot look only the poverty rate, that means monetary-based poverty measurement. If we take it, as something written in stone, then all the policy we will apply the next 5 years, that would give actually different result. Because we are country, still we are emerging. We have limited resource and we need efficient policy tool. This is one. And the second one, as you shared, that I'm really sorry, if you please, the second one. Dashboard approach. You are right that dashboard approach, actually it's not considered the joint distribution. That's why we found, or the scholars said, that there is opportunity to use multidimensional poverty. And at the same time, I would like to quote Martha Sen. He said that money, actually, it is not the end. We cannot eat money, right? It's the means to have those services. So that is why the approach, it's always better to complementary. We are not telling, according to the economist, Tony Atkinson, he suggested to keep the both monetary measurement as well as multidimensional poverty measurement. Thank you.
Dr. Rokeya Khatun, former Director, National Academy for Planning and Development and Advisor, World Food Program.
Is it possible that we go to the slide before?
This one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you are talking about dashboard approach, multidimensional approach, and in those approaches, the indicators that you have mentioned are sort of basic needs. All on a sudden, you have written in this slide about Women Empowerment Index. We all know that Human Development Index, United Nations, gender disaggregated expressions of those are Gender Development Index, Gender Inequality Index. So you have written Women Empowerment Index. What are your suggested indicators for that?
This is actually what we could consider for the next time, that Oxford University already did this study. This is called Women Empowerment in Agricultural Index.
Yes.
They already did, and they also included Bangladesh. So if we also consider, while as gender is cross-cutting, right? So if we also consider this sort of indicator, that would also help our policymakers who are working in institutions as well as NGOs. That would also help them to design this sort of anti-poverty projects.
Okay. Please let me allow to tell you that gender is a cross-cutting issue. This statement is no more valid these days. Actually, the development should be an inclusive approach, where women, children, physically challenged, elderly persons, all are considered. Their access to education, their access to skill, health, and whatever water, sanitation. Particularly, if you talk about women, then women participate in decision making. That indicator is very important.
Right.
That indicates leadership.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you too.
This is the last question or comments. More one?
Sir, Assalamu alaikum. This
But
is
very
Sharif
brief.
Mohammed.
Try to ask this question very brief.
Sir, this is Sharif Mohammed Rizal Karim. I am working at Bangladesh Bridge Authority as a deputy director. Some days before, I came to learn that in 1960s, in poverty, we just historical analysis, macroeconomy based. Then 1970s, basic needs based. 1980s, human rights. And after that decades in 1990s, people wants to know what poor think about themselves. In this stage, after 20 years, you are researching about the multidimensional approach. Why you are going back? Why not you are adding new some indicators? You are looking only 3 big indicators. Why you are not including more indicators at this time? Thank you.
Thank you very much. There is a word called "don't kill a messenger." I am actually the messenger. So the internationally best practices are that they found limitation of those indicators. And later on, it's whenever Martin Ravelian, he was the director of World Bank, he introduced that we can measure poverty. This is called $1 per day per person, right? And then it was very popular to other countries. And I think you also know that there are also politics behind introducing some sort of thing, some sort of hegemony, that Western hegemony and also others, as World Bank, IMF, and we called Bretton Woods institutions, right? There are also many politics. But later on, the scholar like Amartya Sen, Tony Atkinson, as well as many other scholars, they suggested that it's actually cannot measure everything. So why not we are developing such a way that we could see the true picture. So true is a different thing, we may not know, but at least try to grasp it. So later on, they developed initially one sort of an index, but it was not able to satisfy all the properties. Then Sabina Alkar and James Foster, they researched it, and their index satisfy all the properties. So that's why we are using it. And regarding the indicator, you are really right that why these are the few indicators. Again, it's actually experiment. Mostly the 10 indicators internationally they use because of comparability. But if we consider the country like Bhutan, they have a happiness index. Colombia, Mexico, they have different indicators. So there are scopes or talk we could discuss that could be the best indicators to reflect in it. Thank you.
Very brief in your question.
Actually, this is my question, not my question, it is my comments. Last month, the two Oxford researchers came to Dhaka, and we are GED official and BBS official trained up how to calculate poverty by measuring MPI. Actually, hopefully, after 2 or 3 years, we will apply MPI by measuring poverty. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I know two of them. One was Chris, right? So yes, I worked with them. And last month, I also had a talk with Sabina Alkair, who sent them. Sabina was also here, right, in your GED department. We have also another colleague, Jokir Bhai. He was also with me, actually. Thank you. Thank you for your comment. It's really good news that Bangladesh government is also taking care. And you may know the Colombia president, he also received a Nobel Peace Prize. And he really did well, reducing poverty using multidimensional poverty index. Thank you.
There is no question. Now this is my part to end this session. First of all, I'd like to render very special thanks to Mr. Abdul Al Mamun. He's a bright scholar. I had an opportunity to go through the paper before as a reviewer, and I put some comments. And from this presentation, I can say there's lots of improvements have made. I think it's his PhD work. So long it's PhD work, I think in the forthcoming years, he will be able to improve his theoretical foundation, and he will be able to generate empirical evidence, and that might be useful for the policymakers. Finally, I would like to render special thanks again to come to a long way and share your vision and ideas with the participants. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everybody.
May I request Nazmus Sadat to take your seat, please?
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Nazmus Sadat, PhD, serves as the Deputy Secretary for PPP Authority to the Prime Minister's Office. He is going to present the paper on PPP policy implementation performance, a cross-case analysis of port infrastructure projects in Bangladesh. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to Mr. Nazmus Sadat.
Thank you. Indeed, after a strong presentation, it is a challenging position also. However, I am very much grateful to NAPD for selecting my article. I would like to start my session. First of all, I would like to thank my respected chair and also my learned audience, and good afternoon, and also assalamu alaikum. I would like to discuss on PPP policy implementation, which is being introduced for a long time ago, since 1996, and then 2004 we started. Then again 2012, third wave of PPP. However, the PPP is not new. The issue is that government is implementing projects through government finance, and also government implement project through taking loan from development partners. PPP is third kind of government projects that include financing from the private sector. So it is a government project, but if we consider the performance evaluation of a government project, it is relatively easy because we rely on whether it is meeting the design goal or not. Means the specification, cost, time, and quality, as well as performance delivery. But in case of PPP, it is difficult in a sense. There are private sector engagement, as well as there are expectations from the users and citizens. So PPP is considered as a network form of organization due to engagement of several stakeholders in these PPP modalities. That's why its evaluation is not possible only from measuring the meeting design goals. So it requires a lot of...
Sorry, can you please go through the slides or PowerPoints?
Sure. It requires more indicators and measures to measure. So I have taken port infrastructure to measure its performance. Among these two port infrastructure, one is called successful and one is not successful, though this project is running. So it is very difficult why you are taking this project, telling this project non-successful. So I would like to use some new technology methods that is called qualitative comparative analysis to establish a position of a project in the meantime of non-success and success. So this is my paper indeed, and this is the contents. Indeed, I have developed a framework based on some literatures, and I believe that that can be used by researcher in measuring the performance of a PPP projects. I have developed 5 indicators and 25 measures, and I have done qualitative studies because it is not possible to capture the views, ideas, opinions of the stakeholders within a quantitative terms, as well as the PPP is a project specific. Each project is different. That's why you need to understand the context of each project. That's why case study approach is more suitable in PPP project evaluation. So I have taken qualitative study as well as the case study methods. So this is background. In a sense, Bangladesh Land Port Authority Sthalbandar Kortripokho took initiative based on the 2004 guidelines and tried to implement 6 projects. Among them, 1 is running well, 4 are struggling with construction operation facilities, and 1 did not start yet. It means there is an implementation deficit. So as an academician, it is important to know what is the performance and why it differs. So I am covering the first part only. However, in yesterday's I found that it needs to have some pictorials to get inside the paper. As it is academic paper, it is not indeed included, but I would like to show the 2 projects in little detail, but I will make a very short presentation of these 2 cases as if you can easily grasp what I would like to tell to you and what is happening in reality. This is United Land Port Teknaf. It is in Cox's district, and private operator is United Group. And this is located in Cox's. It is 27 acres. And after a competitive bidding, United Group found this project, and revenue sharing 28.9% they will offer to the government from their earnings. This is the aerial view, and it shows the infrastructure equipment requirement, and as well as some periods. And there is also payment requirement from the private party. And these are the infrastructure construction that have been done by the private operator in Teknaf. But they are also facing challenges, means competing facilities, because there are several jetties, private jetties, which is authorized and unauthorized, as well as within 10 kilometers. LGD also constructed a jetty in Kayukhali Point, as well as there are jetty in Shahpuri that are competing for this project, so they are losing some revenues. So it is very difficult, not very difficult, to say about the performance of this project. Initially, after seeing this, you can see this is a successful project, I can see, and the others also can see. This is the Shunamurjid Land Port, which is in Chapainababganj district. And this is the views that Indian trucks enters and goes out, and Bangladesh truck goes in. And this is the major functions is there, and revenue earns from these activities. So it is in 19.10 acre lengths in Chapai district, and it was competitive bidding, but Messrs. Panama Trading found this project, who offered 49% revenue share, which is very high indeed. And this is also the facilities and also aerial views that government wanted to produced by the private sector. This is the inside view, and payment requirement, which is little bit high in case, and there was another advance payment of 5 crore taka at the very beginning of the project. And this is the infrastructure construction, that is administrative building is still undergoing, and warehouse, they are not constructing warehouse, they are using the existing warehouse that found in land acquisition period, and security dormitory, they are still working on it. And they have also contentious issues, means competing facilities, because some trucks that are carrying boulder stone and fly ash go outside due to not having land inside. So they lose also revenue, private operator lose revenue. The problem is that this port operator has several events default, and he could not develop infrastructure, installments, could not pay royalties, as well as reporting requirements was not fulfilled. And also they have used some contraband items, and cargo and customs clearance, they violated some rules. So the Land Port Authority issued termination notice in 2006. ITCOL was financing this PPP, and ITCOL has stepped in this PPP, and ITCOL appointed another designee for this port. But the issue is that the second port operator could not do that much. So government again issued termination notice, and the termination notice was withdrawn by the indication of the officials, high officials, that he will pay back the money, and he will do construction works within 4 years. However, the project is running in this way. So these are the basic things about this project. Now I am going to my presentation again. So initially I mentioned that I have developed my framework based on the academicians who studied evaluation, but I found there is no uniform criteria and uniform methods for evaluating performance. So it is very difficult. So I tried to understand in which way I can proceed. So I found that the last scholar that suggested that you have to enter into the intervention of this area that through a particular theory. If you would, can follow a theory, then it is possible to do better than any other scattering from different scholars' measures and indicators. And that's why my research question, how to evaluate theoretically driven PPP policy implementation performance. And in a sense, I have mentioned that PPP is some sort of network. There is some network, and network management is widely used by the public administration scholars. And in network management, I have developed a framework based on network management, which focus on stakeholder satisfaction along with meeting the policy design goals, as well as network effectiveness, whether the network among the private partner and public partner is sustainable or not, whether private partner is interested to do again another PPP, as well as our private party is interested to do another PPP, is also one measures of network effectiveness. So I have taken this theoretical approach, and these are the indicators that I have developed for performance measurement: meet policy design goals, stakeholder satisfaction, and network level effectiveness. But as I have mentioned, I have used a qualitative comparative analysis for analytic purpose. I have taken 3 dimensions. One is project management dimension, in which project manager give focus, time, cost, quality, as well as satisfaction perspectives, stakeholder satisfaction perspective, public partner satisfaction, private partner satisfaction, user satisfaction, as well as network management perspective, that is structure, process, and performance. So I have interviewed 24 officials in 2 networks, as well as the officials who worked in the organization but they have retired, as well as some officials who are very much aware about the PPPs of university teacher as well as PPP expert. That is, I have interviewed IIFC MD also in this case. So, as I have discussed that among these 6 length port, I am not going through this. Now I am going to the findings. Indeed, as it is qualitative, so interview data is presented in this way. So I will not go through details, but I can show you that in case of case A, second para, port operator developed the facility complying 100% of the concession agreement. Moreover, port operator has constructed more infrastructure and developed more facilities which were not in the agreement earlier, such as they have built more set waiting scale constructed embankment, reclaim land from the river. And third one, operational specification is 100% perfect from the public partners point of view. And this is the stakeholder satisfaction point of view. I have put 3 stakeholders. First one is BESB key, means private public sector satisfaction point of view. Government's objective is to facilitate the service as if the people of the country gets benefit. The private port operator is doing this job consistently, thus we do not have any dissatisfaction. And secondly, from private operator's view, Take the Land Port is a successful PPP if it is because of ethical practice of the private investor, not for other reasons. However, we still cannot claim that we have been fully mechanized with all sorts of equipment, so still there is room for improvement. And third one is users. Now PO is very much responsive and all sorts of problems are solved within 1 or 2 hours, so I am fully satisfied with the current arrangement. And this is network level effectiveness. And the second point, para, only I would like to read out because it is important. With some precautionary measures, we can easily do partnership with the private partners for constructing, operating the project. The same views also expressed by the private operators. And now, Sonamurjit Land Port, that's its case B. Case B, you can easily find out the second para, port construct facility based on technical satisfaction. Most of the cases, operational inspection is not appropriate. In case of stakeholders' point of view, first one is from public sector. We are unable to implement agreement provisions, rights, obligations. PO could not implement any commitment. To my opinion, 95% commitments are not implemented. Earlier investor left the project, but new investor is also the same. Moreover, risk could not be transferred to the private operator. As well as second para is from private partner, and also they are found not satisfied enough. And third para is also the users, and they are also not found satisfied because of taking times in the truck as well as their attitude and other things, environmental conditions. And network level effectiveness, private partner is happy to work with these activities because they have gained some expertise in port operations. So they think that, yes, we would like to do another PPP with the government, but government strictly says that no, we have lost our interest in PPP. We are not doing PPP anymore. Indeed, they are considering this perspective when they are considering the second case, this case, but when they were asked for the first case, they said, yes, we can do PPP because now it's a relief. They are performing well, and we are just taking only monitoring and supervision, something like this. We are happy with that. And these are the cross-case synthesis is nearly success case, and initial assessment non-success case. Now comparative analysis. I will go very quick because I have only 2 minutes according to my colleagues. The qualitative comparative analysis is very simple. First, you have to develop indicators and measures. That I have developed 5 indicators and 5 measures. Then you have to define success based on 3 different perspectives. Then detect success criteria based on success, and finally view success criteria. So I would like to show only the measures that I have developed. This is the measures, and I have used Likert scale and some yes, no, and if it is very bad or not satisfactory, then 1, if it is satisfactory, then 5, and yes, no means there is no cutoff marks within this. And these are public partners perspective, public authority satisfaction, user satisfaction, network satisfaction. Altogether, it is a 25 measures. And this is the three perspectives that I mentioned: the project management perspective, stakeholder perspective, and network management perspective. Indeed, I have distinguished these measures into three perspectives: this project management perspective, stakeholder perspective, network perspective. Then I have analyzed this data, whether it tells something different or not, because the authors argue that it tells something different. So I'd like to see that. So this is the scale that is developed from 0 to 100% in a continuum, 100% successful, 0 non-successful. Within this range, it can fall. And this is the result of the study that initially it was found nearly success case is less than successful, and initially it is found not successful. But when I calculated the composite result, it came is far from success. It is also less than fully success or success. So in the final comment, which is little changed, the initially case B was non-success case. Now it goes little upward after this composite analysis. It is far from success, but not non-success. Graphically, I can show that initial assessment for case A was like that. It is nearly success or less than fully success. But after composite analysis, it score ups, but it did not go to complete success stage due to having some difficulties or risk facing by the private operator. But in case of case B, which was initially non-success case, after this composite analysis, it improved a second grade. But you can say that it is not successful, but it is little far from success. So this is my summary slide. And I would like to read out this summary slide because I think that is important. The objective of this study is to assess implementation performance of two PPP cases based on theory-driven approach. In this case, it is done through qualitative comparative analysis. And this is important, the second para. Sometimes weak or obtuse expression on PPP performance as a non-success may create frustration among those who increasingly works for the betterment. Thus, evaluative judgment need to be scientific and acceptable to the relevant stakeholders. In this perspective, qualitative comparative analysis remark excel is found useful in PPP performance evaluation. Why I am telling it? Because if we consider Mayor Hani flyover, which is one of the first PPP project in dot sector in Bangladesh, there is a perception about this project which is a mix, success, non-success. So it is very difficult to tell what is the performance positioning of this project. I believe this method can be applied in this project and can be evaluated and can show performance positioning. So moreover, the theoretical driven evaluation offer more insights which makes possible to explain the differences among the PPPs. And in this article, network management theory has been employed to evaluate PPP implementation performance, and this paper extends literature in this line of thought through empirical evidence in Bangladesh context. Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Nazmus Sadat. We are facing severe time constraint because we'll have to go for prayer and break. Then our closing session, our Honorable Principal Secretary of the Prime Minister will take part there. So within 5 to 10 minutes, we'll have to finish. Now I would like to open the floor. I would like to invite a few questions because, we have severe time constraint. Please raise your hand and ask question.
Assalamu alaikum. I am Zakir Hussain Khan from NBR. I have some observation, and we have lots of ideal money as well as lots of black money. So is there any possibility or any case study to add the black money in PPP? Actually, I focus on that. Lots of black money are go away from Bangladesh. And also lazy. I don't encourage black money earning, but lots of money go away from Bangladesh. This is my concern point. And as well as every government are frequently offer black to white. That's my point. Thank you.
Sir, answer.
You're going to answer? Okay.
Thank you very much. Very complicated questions. Indeed, PPP is a complex mode of government, and PPP only flourish in the economy which is mature, transparency, accountability high, good governance is there. So, in such a situation, if we encourage blindly, then we think that the governance, transparency, accountability is just down. So if we bring that investors again, the PPP can be a failure case. So it is not wise to bring those investors in this sophisticated instrument.
Anybody else? Please. Comments or question?
Question, sir.
Okay.
I'm Ashikur Rahman. My question is, I don't know about PPP. My question is, what's the difference between PPP and joint venture with the government?
Thank you very much. Indeed, joint venture is also PPP, but academicians do not consider joint venture as a PPP because in PPP, in new public management concept, PPP is evolved that government must be efficient, government must be streamlined, slim, and you have to give your infrastructure construction service delivery to the private operator. So if we do joint venture again, the government is being engaged in doing the construction and operation of the service delivery. So the problems are existing in the government project. The same thing is happening in all joint venture project, as well as government also sharing the risk of that PPP project becoming a partner of the PPP joint venture. But if it is a PPP completely given to the private operator and who is delivering the services and developing the infrastructure through SPV, so they are taking risk. So academician thinks it should be separated, though it is a continuum, joint venture is as a PPP. But for point of joint venture should not be considered as a PPP.
Okay, relevant question. Question must be relevant based on this presentation.
Thank you very much, sir. My name is Daliluddin. My question is that so far the government of Bangladesh has taken a good numbers of PPP. I want to ask that is there any organization which monitor and evaluate the PPP project regularly or time to time? Thank you.
Indeed, thank you, sir. In 2010 policy, strategy and policy of the PPP, in 2010, they have made a provision of establishing an organization called Public-Private Partnership Office. Later on, after enacting Act in 2015, PPP Act, that PPP office has been transformed to PPP authority. Now PPP authority has the responsibility to monitor, supervise, and to solve the problems, the wicked problems that are not being solved by the private and public partners alone. PPP authority engage themselves.
Any more question? From IMED? Honorable Director General IMED, do you have any? No, nothing to say. So thank you very much, Dr. Sad.
Madam has one question.
Who is? Okay, Appa, please. Please.
Thank you, Madam.
For gender balance, it is your responsibility to ask a question from gender point of view.
Okay, actually in this subject, my knowledge lies in between 0 and 1. Keep that in mind. I have taken from your slides 3 things. Number 1, you are talking about project management perspective, right?
Exactly.
And in that, you mentioned about stakeholder satisfaction. Okay? My question is, stakeholder satisfaction, that means after the project. Did you consider what the stakeholders said at the designing stage of the project? The private sector, did they consult the direct or indirect beneficiaries? Okay, that's my question number 1. It may sound silly, but try to say something. Okay, then you have, like, what are the experiences of public-private partnership about challenges and benefits? You know, we know about the Halda River. That's a different example, Halda River. But we see that this river water is polluted by private sector mostly because of mills and factories that are located on the bank of Halda. So do they really take note of these things, social and environmental impacts of development venture? Some mostly actually empirical evidence, mathematical or statistical, whatever it is, it may lead us to non-reality. Those are most of the times not real, like the income per capita. If we calculate the income per capita of Bangladesh, it's very high now, but are we all solvent? No. So what are your reactions to those things? I'm very stupid, but I'm asking this question, okay? Thank you.
Try to be very brief. Okay?
Thank you, madam. Very complex questions indeed. Especially, I try to answer first one first. Indeed, in PPP project, it is said that identification is very much important. So during identification, you have to consult with the private parties, those who are interested with the project, and private sector consultation is requirement at the feasibility stage also, because if it is not commercially attractive to the private operator, no bidders will come. So in PPP project cases, it is very much suggestive you do stakeholder consultation several times before going to bidding. And in case of project management, satisfaction is a performance measurement during operation or construction period later that. But in case of PPP, it is mandatory to do a stakeholder consultation. And usually we do so in 3 times. In government do so, as well as when we hire consultant do stakeholder consultation, means they go individual private parties, those who are interested. If it is health sector, they go more or less health operators to get to know their views, opinions. As well as in other sector, they also goes to that. As well as in pre-bid meeting, we encourage the bidders to give their opinion, and we change our bid terms and conditions sometimes. That's possible to change after the pre-bid meeting. So there are 3 different levels of a stakeholder consultation, and it is mandatory for PPP. And if it is not done, then PPP is going to be a failure case indeed. And second thing is that, madam, I am not very expert in this area, because it relates with the developmental PPP connotation or terms. But what we are talking about, it is called infrastructure PPP. The government will develop infrastructure and service delivery through those infrastructure. So currently, those are the policies, guidelines, framework that we are jumping and doing things. It's only based on infrastructure. So I have little ideas about the second part, though it is very important. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nazmus Sadat, for your brilliant presentation and answering the questions. I have some observation regarding your presentation. Although I have an opportunity to go through your papers as a reviewer, I think you have tried to measure the performance of selected 4 PP projects. Again, I am raising the question in regards to the methodological point of view, why you have selected 4 projects, not many other projects. The method you have followed in the study, that is mostly qualitative, and you have tried to generate a composite index, and based on that you have tried to measure the performance. We would like to know from your paper that whether this project was successful, but only we have considered the client satisfaction perspective, but other perspective like time, cost, output, this also should be considered. Before measuring any performance, I think performance measurement framework must be right one. Without having that, we cannot manage performance. So I think your attempt is very good. I think you can modify your methodology, or your methodology may be applied in measuring the performance of other PV projects. So thank you very much for your nice and brilliant presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, all of you, for participating and making such an animated session. Ladies and gentlemen, now is the time for prayer, not tea. Because of time limitation, we will not go for tea, okay? We'll enjoy tea and coffee after closing session. and the audience. After prayer, we'll be back to the auditorium at 4 for the closing ceremony. And with the kind consent of the chair, we are going to over the session. Thank you very much for your patience hearing. Thank you.